So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, needless to say this, just watching this lecture would be job half done. Yes, we will quickly cover today's current affairs in this lecture, but you won't be able to remember these current affairs unless you revise them. Now, you can revise them from the notes provided by us, and these notes are shared on our Telegram channel. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below this video. Okay, so do revise it after watching this lecture. Alright, let's begin today's discussion. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today from UPSC Current Affairs. Okay, so let's begin. So daily current affairs, 22nd September, Monday, and here is the list of topics from current affairs. So number one is problem with low inflation. Recently, inflation related data came out and it showcased that India has been in a consistent low inflation phase for some months now. Now, is this low inflation period problematic? Counter to what many people think. Is it problematic? Let's see. Okay. Then second topic is with respect to a community of India called Kurmis who are demanding to be included in scheduled tribes list. Okay. So we will talk about Kurmis ST Row. Then the third topic is about quality control order framework. For all products manufactured in India and imported from abroad, well, they have to meet certain quality control standards. Now, there has been a high level committee that was formed which is recommending diluting some of these standards. Okay, so what is basically quality control order of different products? We'll talk about this. Okay, and in the end, we'll talk about Bagram Air Base, which is in Afghanistan, because Donald Trump has recently threatened Afghanistan that this Bagram Air Base should be given to America. Otherwise, there would be serious consequences for Afghanistan and Taliban. So why is Bagram Air Base so significant for America? We will talk about this. So the first topic is related to UPSC Current Affairs Economics. The second topic is related to, well, polity, UPSC polity. Third topic is again related to polity economics, okay? Because it is related to government policy. And fourth topic is related to international relations from current affairs, okay? So these are the four topics covering basically three subjects of UPSC syllabus, all right? So these are the four topics that we shall focus our discussion on. So let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number one, and that is problems with low inflation. Look, India generally has high inflation and many people are troubled by this. Okay, we generally have periods of high inflation and all consumers are troubled by this. Now, whenever there is a low inflation period, it is considered a good sign for the economy, right? Consumers are jubilant, they are happy. People are happy, RBI is happy that we are in a low inflation phase. That's good, okay, for our economy, for our consumers. But low inflation, especially extremely low inflation, has certain negative consequences as well. And you as students of economics for UPSC examination should be aware of these negative consequences as well. Almost everyone is aware of benefits of low inflation. But what are the negative consequences, side effects of low inflation? We will talk about this. Okay, so let's quickly jump into this topic. So problems with low inflation. So for quite some time now, for many months, low inflation has been witnessed in India's economy. Whether you measure through CPI, Consumer Price Index, or WPI, Wholesale Price Index, inflation numbers have been consistently low. Now, this has some positive effects as well as negative effects. We'll majorly focus on negative effects, okay? So why is this low inflation period generally considered bad? First of all, this low inflation period is bad for the government. And to understand this point, well, you need to understand some of the basics of economics, okay? So I'll give you a brief overview of these basics. Then you'll be able to understand why is it bad for the government, okay? So yeah. You see, the thing is that in India and all over the world, GDP is measured in two ways, okay, in two categories. One is called real GDP, the other is called nominal GDP, okay. Now, real GDP is measured at some constant set of prices. So, the prices of all products and services of some year, in this case 2011-12, that is why 2011-12 is known as base year. In India, real GDP is calculated by taking the prices of all products and services that were there in 2011-12. Clear? And nominal GDP is calculated based on the prices of these products and services currently. Current market prices. Clear? Now, needless to say this, that if there will be high inflation, real GDP will remain unchanged because real GDP is calculated at some constant set of prices, in this case 2011-12. But if inflation is low, current market prices would be low, nominal GDP would be low. And if inflation is high, current market prices would rise, nominal GDP would rise. Okay? So the first disadvantage of low inflation is that at the beginning of the year, government made some estimates about nominal GDP. Real GDP also, nominal GDP also. Now, those estimates that were made by government at the beginning of the year would come out to be wrong estimates. Because what government expected was that there would be 4-5% of inflation, but inflation has been less. So the target of government to achieve this much nominal GDP growth would not be met, right? It's not because India's economy is not growing, it's because prices are subdued. Therefore, just because of the prices, nominal GDP is low. As per the recent data, real GDP of India was at 5-quarter high, but nominal GDP of India was at a historic low. Again, the only reason is not economy, prices. Prices do have an impact on nominal GDP, not real GDP. Remember this part. So whatever the target the government had set before itself for nominal GDP, that won't be met because unusually low inflation is seen, less than expected by the government. Okay, so this is problem number one. Then it's not just the nominal GDP targets that the government is not going to meet. There is one more problem. Government also calculates fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit. Government calculates many deficits. Okay. Now these deficits are measured in percentage terms. I'll give you an example. Okay. Hear me out carefully. And you all know that government wants to reduce fiscal deficit. Okay. So just humor me for a second. Let's suppose India's fiscal deficit is 10 rupees. And India's nominal GDP is 100 rupees. Yes, makes sense? Now, what will be fiscal deficit in terms of percentage? In terms of percentage of nominal GDP, fiscal deficit would be 10% of nominal GDP. Remember, we calculate fiscal deficit as a percentage of nominal GDP. This part you have to remember. Not real GDP, nominal GDP. Make sense? Now, government wants to reduce its fiscal deficit from 10% to 5%. Clear? So this year, what the government did was, government reduced its fiscal deficit to 5 rupees. But because prices were also extremely low, well, nominal GDP also came out to be 50 rupees. Now, in terms of rupees, fiscal deficit was reduced. But in terms of percentage of GDP, what is 5 of 50? 5 rupees of 50 rupees? Again 10%. So because nominal GDP numbers are low, government, despite making efforts to reduce its fiscal deficit, won't meet its target of 5%. This is what is happening now. Make sense? So now you understand why is it bad for the government. Nominal GDP targets are missed. Budget calculations, especially deficit calculations, the targets government had set before itself, that won't be met because, simply put, nominal GDP has declined and these deficits are calculated as a percentage of GDP. Clear? Plus, the thing is that nominal GDP takes care of current prices. Now, if India's GDP is rising, incomes are also rising. Okay? And that GDP should be nominal GDP. If India's nominal GDP is rising, incomes are also rising. But if India's nominal GDP is not rising, incomes are also not rising. If incomes are not rising, then income tax collection would also fall. Falling nominal GDP actually harms government's tax revenue. So this is an area where government is being harmed again. So these are the 3 negative consequences for the government. Now, are there any economic consequences? We talked about government. Are there any economic consequences? Okay, does your economy gets hampered in cases of low inflation? Yes, it does. So what are the economic consequences for the economy? Why is it bad for the economy? Well, if your inflation is consistently low, there is a risk for deflation. What do you mean by deflation? Prices are becoming cheap. Okay, there is a risk for deflation. Why? What happens is that when inflation is extremely low, well, companies are not making any profit. Because companies are not making any profit, well, what can happen is that they might, well, close down their factories or remove all their workers to basically save on some cash. Now, these people will be removed. There will be joblessness. They won't have any income. They won't have any income, so they won't buy goods and services. They won't buy goods and services. Demand would fall. Deflation would happen. So this is one negative consequence. Then, well, companies also wait. Consumers also wait. Business profitability comes down. Plus, when there is low inflation, there is high debt burden. Now, I can't explain this thing, why low inflation causes high debt burden for companies, because that would require a separate lecture. If you have covered economics with us in our Gurukul course, you would know about this real interest rate. Okay. So those who have studied real interest rate would understand this. Okay. If inflation is low, real interest rate is high, it is bad for borrowers in real terms. But if you have not covered it, just listen to it. When you'll cover economics, you'll understand this point also. But these are the negative consequences of low inflation. Are there some benefits of low inflation? Of course there are. It is beneficial for consumers. Consumers are extremely happy, right? It stimulates the economy because now people think that things are cheap. Let's buy it now. Otherwise, they would become expensive. So people increase their spending. When people increase their spending, demand increases, economy gets stimulated. Okay. Plus, when inflation is low, RBI can also lower interest rates to boost the economy. Earlier, RBI was not reducing interest rates because it feared that inflation would rise. But now inflation is already so low that RBI can afford to reduce interest rates to stimulate the economy. These are the benefits of low inflation. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are thinking what's true? Low inflation bad or low inflation good? We discussed both these things, okay? How low inflation is bad for the economy, how low inflation is good for the economy. What is the truth? Okay, so listen to me. Extremely low inflation is bad for the economy. Extremely low. But moderate levels of low inflation is good for the economy. So this why good kicks in when inflation is moderately low. But when inflation goes extremely low, then it is bad. Make sense? That is why RBI says that inflation should be between 2 to 6%. If it is more than 6%, bad. If it is even less than 2%, that is extremely low. That is also bad. If it is between this, then it's okay. So extremely low means below 2%. That is bad. But above 2%, it's good. You understand the point, right? That's all. That's all you need to know. Okay. Now let's quickly shift our focus to second news item, and that is Kurmis and ST Row. Okay. Now there is this community in, well, it is spread around 3 states of India. Okay. This community is called Kurmis, and Kurmi people are found in West Bengal, Jharkhand and Odisha. Clear? Now currently they are categorized as OBCs. Okay. Other backward classes. They are categorized as OBCs. But during British rule, in the 1931 census, they were categorized as scheduled tribes, STs. But as soon as India got independence, okay, in 1949, they were removed from this ST list and put in OBC list. Now with ST list, if your community is included in ST list, there are a lot of benefits that come out from this due to various government welfare schemes and the benefit of reservation as well, right? And there are many other benefits also. So the Kurmis are agitating that they should be included in the ST list because the Britishers categorized them as STs. It's the independent India's government that categorized them as OBCs. So they should be included in this ST list, and for that they have been protesting for many years. Now they have recently launched their protest. In fact, Calcutta High Court called their protest illegal, yet they are protesting. Clear? Now what is important for us in this news item? Who are Kurmis? Okay, what is their history? Then the third is, how can a community be included in ST list? What is the procedure for this? What is the criteria that government follows to include a particular community into ST list? You should be aware of this criteria because many communities are demanding ST recognition. Clear? So we'll focus on that. Alright, so let's begin this. So Kurmis ST Row. So this is India's map, and as you can see, this is the area where Kurmis are found. So West Bengal, some parts of Odisha and Jharkhand. Okay, basically they are more concentrated around the Chota Nagpur plateau region. Rajmahal Hills and Chota Nagpur plateau. Right? Now they were categorized, during the British rule, they were categorized as STs in the 1931 census. But in 1949, well, government removed them and included them in the OBC list. They are currently categorized as OBCs. Now the Kurmis are demanding that if the British recognize them as STs, scheduled tribes, you should go back to that, number one. Number two, they consider themselves to be Adivasis, that is, they are tribals, they have various tribal practices, and they want to protect those tribal practices. So they consider themselves to be the original inhabitants of India, the tribals, okay, aboriginals of India. So they deserve ST status. The British recognize this, so they should be given ST status, plus they would get some welfare, they would get a lot of welfare measures also, welfare benefits also. Make sense? So this is what they are demanding. So their demand number one is put us in ST list. Second demand is that Kurmis have their own language that is called Kurmeli. Okay, they want this language to be recognized as an official language. And how can this language be recognized as an official language? If it is included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. So they are demanding Kurmeli to be included in the 8th schedule of Indian Constitution. So these are the two demands they are actually wanting. Clear? That's the issue. Basically, it is a peasant community, traditional farmers, okay, peasants, if we go back to history. Nonetheless, that's all the information that you need to know. But what is more important, and questions can be asked from that, is what is the criteria and what is the process of including a community into the ST list, okay? So we'll focus on that. So first of all, what is the criteria? If there is a community that is demanding ST status, then what is the criteria that the government looks at to qualify them for their inclusion into ST list, okay? So criteria for inclusion. Number one, indications of primitive traits, evidence of early cultural characteristics, okay? Primitive traits, like the primitive tribal traits, early man traits, okay? Then they should have their own distinctive culture that shouldn't be part of the mainstream culture. Unique set of traditions and social practices, geographical, living in remote and secluded areas, shyness of contact with the community at large, they don't mix with the majority community, backwardness, evidence of significant socio-economic disadvantages. This is the criteria that is looked at. But what is the process? Okay, the process is as following. So first, the state government has to give a recommendation to the central government that this particular tribe that is found in our state should be included in the ST. So first step is, step number one is nomination or recommendation by state government. In fact, Jharkhand government actually gave that recommendation as well, not others but Jharkhand. Okay, then that recommendation goes to Union Ministry of Tribal Affairs for review and Registrar General of India. Clear? The proposal then requires to be approved from National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. It's a constitutional body. National Commission for Scheduled Tribes should approve this proposal. Then the cabinet should approve this proposal. Then a bill is introduced into the parliament under Constitution Scheduled Tribes Order. The inclusion comes into effect only after the president gives his assent to that bill, when it is passed. So this is the detailed process. Remember this, questions can be asked. Okay, so that's about it. Now let's quickly shift our focus to third news item, and that is Quality Control Order Framework. Okay, listen to me carefully. It's a very short topic. You'll understand it. It's not that complicated at all. The thing is that you must have bought products from the market which have certain hallmarks, ISI mark. Certain products need to have ISI mark. Certain products need to have BIS mark, hallmarks for gold and silver, right? These are certifications that every product should have. These certifications prove that this particular product has followed all the quality standards that the government has mandated them to do so. Okay? Now, this certification is governed as per Quality Control Order. Okay? So, government issues quality control orders for different products, and the manufacturers or the importers of those products should comply with those quality standards so that our consumers, Indian consumers, get good quality stuff. They trust the markets. Make sense? Now, India's quality control orders have been a little stringent. That's the complaint given by various MSMEs, medium, micro, small enterprises. Some MSMEs are saying that getting this certification takes a lot of time. There are so many bureaucratic hurdles, plus the requirements are too strict. So this is harming their business. So that is why they have requested the government to lighten the burden a little. Now a high level committee has been formed, which is putting forward a proposal to lighten the burden of these regulations in the quality control orders so that it becomes easier for MSMEs to get these certifications. Clear? That was what was in the news. But what is quality control order? What is quality control order framework? Under which act does it come? We'll talk about all these things because these are pertinent questions, important questions. Okay. So quality control order framework. So about this quality control order. So the law under which this is governed is called Bureau of Indian Standards Act 2016. This act created a new body called Bureau of Indian Standards. BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, sets Indian standards for goods, articles, processes, systems or services in the country. To ensure that these standards are followed for imported, remember, also imported goods or domestically produced goods, BIS grants a license or certificate like ISI certification, hallmarks, all these things. Okay. Upon obtaining a BIS license, an entity can put the standard mark on their product like hallmark for gold or ISI mark. Now for many products, this mark, this certification is voluntary. Manufacturers can take this or not. Okay, government is comfortable with that. But certain products are important. For that, the government has made it mandatory to get BIS certification. Okay, for some it is voluntary, for some it is mandatory. Now under section 16 of BIS Act, government can make any product under this mandatory, can put any product under this mandatory category. Make sense? So this is the thing. Now, why does government come out with quality control orders? What are the benefits of quality control orders? Let's talk about the benefits. Okay. So benefits. First of all, it ensures that Indian markets are full of safe products because some products that are manufactured are edible also. People's health is on the line. So products are safe and of high quality. Then it will enhance India's global reputation also. Like you remember a few years back, China's reputation was not that good, that Chinese products are of low quality. India does not want that for its products, right? So this will enhance our global reputation, which will boost our exports. Plus this mandatory quality control order or certification actually protects Indian markets from low quality products being imported from abroad. So it protects Indian markets from inferior goods that can be imported from abroad. That is why it is mandatory for importers also. Make sense? So that's about it as far as quality control order is concerned. I included this news item because prelims MCQ can be asked from this, UPSC prelims. Okay. So just read about this from your notes. And now let's move on to our last news item, and that is Bagram Air Base. Now look, Bagram Air Base is one of the largest air base found in Afghanistan. It is one of the largest air base in the surrounding areas also. Whichever country occupies Afghanistan controls Bagram Air Base because this Bagram Air Base is strategically located. Anyone who has control of Bagram Air Base has control of entire Afghanistan and the neighboring regions. Clear? Now you all know that America came to Afghanistan, occupied Afghanistan in 2001 and stayed there until 2021. When it had to make a hasty withdrawal, Taliban came and captured the entire Afghanistan. Taliban came into power and has been in power ever since. So from 2001 to 2011, Bagram Air Base, the strategically located air base, was under American control, but now it is under Chinese control. Now, America withdrew from Afghanistan. That's all fine. But America is not happy about losing control over Bagram Air Base because America in these 20 years made significant investments into Bagram Air Base. Plus, it is strategically located also. So Donald Trump, using social media, has recently threatened Taliban government to hand over Bagram Air Base to America. Otherwise, there will be serious consequences. So what is Bagram Air Base? Why is it so important that thousands of miles away Donald Trump is tweeting about it? What is its importance? And, well, why is this base geopolitically also important? Okay, we'll talk about these things. This news is important from the perspective of international relations. Okay, so Bagram Air Base. So this is how this air base surrounded by the mountains looked during the American rule. Okay, Now, this base was not constructed by Americans, okay? So it was built by Soviet Union in 1950s. During that time, Soviet Union had a lot of presence and influence in Afghanistan. Okay, it had friendly relations with Afghanistan and a lot of presence. So it was built by Soviet Union in 1950s, okay? And then there was this Soviet Union-Afghan war. This Bagram Air Base was so strategically located that Russia, Soviet Union, used this Bagram Air Base to fight against the Mujahideens in this Soviet-Afghan war. Clear? The Soviet-Afghan war happened between 1979 to 89. Clear? Then, well, the Mujahideens won with America's help, Pakistan's help. Pakistan created Taliban for this purpose only. And well, rest is history. Nonetheless, after the Soviet withdrawal, this Bagram Air Base became abandoned. And well, different factions in Afghanistan, Taliban, Northern Alliance, various warlords were trying to seek control over this Bagram Air Base. Clear? Now, you all know that in 2001, 9/11 attacks happened. Osama bin Laden is guilty for it. Osama bin Laden hides in Afghanistan. Well, USA asks Taliban to hand over Osama bin Laden. USA refuses. So, America invades Afghanistan in 2001 and stays there for 20 years. And all this while, Bagram Air Base remains with America. Now, this Bagram Air Base is in Parwan province of Afghanistan. As you can see on this map, this is Bagram Air Base and this is Parwan province. Okay. Now, this Parwan province is strategically located. Why? Because all the major towns, all the major cities of Afghanistan, well, are connected with this Parwan province. You have to cross Parwan province to reach anywhere in Afghanistan. Kabul, Kandahar, Bamia, everywhere. So whoever controls Parwan province controls Afghanistan. Whoever controls Bagram Air Base controls Parwan. Clear? So this is why this was important. So, well, it was under American control, and when it was under American control, well, the base was expanded. America made so many investments, 77 square kilometers it was expanded. Okay, but then America had to leave. Taliban, well, took control and is still in control of Bagram Air Base. Now, why is Donald Trump threatening now to take back Bagram Air Base? Okay, why? Well, the thing is that, well, this is Afghanistan, this is Tajikistan, and this part over here is China. Okay, and the province of China that borders Afghanistan and Pakistan is called Xinjiang. Now, remember this, okay? Clear? Now, after American withdrawal, China started making inroads into Afghanistan, having regular meetings with Afghanistan, and China is making significant investments. USA is worried that after their withdrawal, China is entering and will take control of Bagram Air Base. Okay? Now, recently, Donald Trump has said that this Bagram Air Base is just 1 hour away from China's nuclear facility in Xinjiang. Now, this is just an allegation because China claims we don't have this nuclear facility in this part. But Donald Trump claims that. He says that to counter China, we need to get Bagram Air Base back. Okay? So, it's the China factor and this air base's strategic location that Donald Trump is saying all of this. Now, the question is, why is China so interested in Afghanistan? Okay? China is interested in Afghanistan because, well, Afghanistan borders Xinjiang. Xinjiang is Muslim majority. And there are many people in Xinjiang province who are seeking independence from China. Okay? Most of the Muslim population of Xinjiang wants independence from China. Now, China is afraid that if Taliban is anti-China, Taliban, because it shares border with Xinjiang, would support radical elements, radical Muslim elements of Xinjiang and would increase the terror movement in Xinjiang. Okay, so they are maintaining friendly relations with Afghanistan and that is why they are entering in Afghanistan. That is the broader reason. Make sense? That's about it. Rest of the information you can find in your notes. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But please do not forget to revise this lecture. That is very important. And I shall see you next time with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.